Everyone, it is Shannon, and I'm here today to do a Friday Reads video. In my Friday Reads videos, I share the books that I finished, the books that I started, and anything interesting that I'm carrying over week to week, and I do think I have a little bit of everything this week, so bonus for that. Let's get right into it with one of the things that I started, which was Her Every Wish by Courtney Milan. This is book 1.5 in the Worth Saga, so it's a novella. It's a historical romance set in the Victorian time period, and I recently read the first book, which was Once Upon a Marquess. Thank you to Kate Kelly for information on Marquess versus Marquis. Finally, the mystery is solved. Marquess is the anglicized version of the French word marquis, which is why you want to pronounce it Marquis. At least I want to pronounce it Marquis, but it's actually Marquess, and Marquess sounds like it's feminine, but it's not because it's an anglicized version of Marquis. So it's a mystery solved in my head. I think I say Marquess, but now that I know it's Marquis, I want to say Marquis. Anyway, it's the same title. It's the same title, but an anglicized version. Anyway, so Her Every Wish. Let's get back to the actual book, not the history of words, which would be a whole other wonderful set of videos, and I would not be the best person to do them. Anyway, so Her Every Wish. So this follows a woman who we meet in the first book. She is a friend of the protagonist in Once Upon a Marquess, and it's just her and her mom. She is taking care of her mom. She works in a flower shop. And in this book, she decides to enter a contest that's sort of a bequeathment of a store, or like the capital for someone to run a store. And it is told that the flyer or whatever, the ad says that the best idea will win, or the best contestant will win. It doesn't specify that it has to be a man. So she decides to enter. So she is very, I love that how ambitious she is, and she's also she wants to, it's tough. Her working in a flower shop and taking care of her mom is pretty tough, so she wants to make their lives better, and she's willing to do the work to get there. So that's one of the things I loved about this book. It's also a second chance romance, which I don't know if I have a strong opinion on if that's a subgenre or trope that I like. I don't know. I liked it in this one. It's also an interracial romance, and I loved the discussions that they had about race and people and the idea of being confronted with stereotypes, as well as people looking down on you and what you can do in that situation. It's amazing. Courtney Milan is amazing. How she in historical romance talks about topics that are still, challenges people face today, and you can actually use it as advice. Like it's amazing. It's so good. I really appreciate it. And it's so funny because I've seen that kind of thing done in other historical romances, and often I find it doesn't stick. Like it just feels a little out of place, but how she does it is just amazing. So I've been really impressed with this whole series, and I continued to be impressed with this. I also really, really like the romance, and I thought it was you know what, I can't, to talk more specifically about it, I would have to get into spoilers of the backstory of the characters, and I don't want to get into that, but I did really love it. It's available as an ebook on Scribd, and it's about 150 pages, 160 pages, so it is novella length, so it was a pretty quick read, and I really liked it. So I am going to continue the series, but I'm going to put it on hold for the summer fling, which is coming in August. Obviously, I could read the next book in the series for that, but I'm going with a different approach, so you have to wait for my August TBR for that. I also finished last week The Black Flamingo by Dean Atta. This one I think I finished the same day as my last Friday reads. I was very, very close, and I've mentioned this in several videos. It is a novel in verse. It follows a gay teen, and he is coming to he's finding himself. It's a coming of age story, and I really liked this one. There were some things that I felt there. I think this is one of the challenges I find with books. This is from last year, so for me, that's a recent release to read, because I don't necessarily read things right after they come out. But I find when I've heard the descriptions of this book, it's been almost all the same. Like, it follows a gay teen who finds himself and gets involved in drag at university. while that is true, this is really a coming of age story, and it starts off when he's quite young, like wanting to play with Barbies young. And so I was really waiting for him to get to university and to be involved in the world of drag. And that is like, well, like not at the front of the book. Like that is well into, like that's the last sort of 25% of the book. So I hope that's not a spoiler to say when that starts, but I'm just trying to articulate that, it's, I do find it challenging sometimes with newer books that we describe with the same description, because I did too. I heard it phrased in one way. It's coming of age, drag, university, but there's so much of it is when he's quite young and, going through like, it's set in the UK, so I don't know what the right terms are for like primary school or junior high, or I think they're called different things, levels, something levels. No, those are exams. Okay, so I'm not sure. So yeah, like a lot of it's more like, I don't know, like sort of like 8 to 14. It feels like there's a lot sort of in that range. It's been a long time since I've been that age. I'm like, I don't remember what age is that? What grade is that? And it's probably different here in Canada. So anyway, but around those ages, and a lot of it dealing with friendships, challenges with people at school, trying to like having crushes, first crushes, those kinds of things. So a lot of it's more centered in that. So I was really sort of like waiting. So expectations really can sort of tailor opinions. So sometimes that's why I don't like to look into too much. But this one, I was really curious about it. My hold came in. I am glad that I read it. I did enjoy it, but I more enjoyed it when he was a mid-teen and later, like when he was later and getting to university. I like the university stuff a lot. I also really love the story of the Black Flamingo, like within the story. That was a great story. And so I really appreciated that. So yeah, so I am glad that I read it. And it's so funny, I really did finish it like I was so close to the end. And I'm glad I gave myself in it, because I almost rushed through it so that I can finish it for last Friday reads. I'm like, no, I really want to enjoy it. And I'm glad that I did, because having that time at a more relaxed pace made me really enjoy it. And it was close to my favorite part of the book. I liked it a lot. There were a lot of conversations with his friends at university that I really appreciated and I thought were really great conversations. And of course, the drag stuff and the performance stuff was just so good. So, and then I also just finished Eclipse by Stephenie Meyer. I am reading these backwards, a la Olivia from Olivia's Catastrophe, who's doing a series backwards read project, including Twilight. And so I finally finished Eclipse. Man, this book is so long. I forgot how long. It's like 650, something like that, 629. And so this is the third book in the Twilight saga. A lot of people are rereading the saga because Midnight Sun is coming out in August. And I'm glad that I'm reading these backwards, because this is the third book, and it's my third favorite book, or second least favorite book, or depending on, okay, we'll get to that in a sec. So I don't really love this one. I really dislike Breaking Dawn, and I still disliked it strongly on reread. Although there were things that I liked. I did like spending time with the characters, but this one, there's so much in it that bugs me. Like, it really, really bugs me. In terms of, it's hard to talk about the third book in the series. It's such a popular series, and people are like either read it or haven't. I just feel like there's not a lot of communication, especially involving the people who are involved in the situation and the decisions and the discussions, and it just drives me, it really bothers me. So anyway, and there were some things that I forgot that happened in this one, and I mostly know it from the film, which is much more of like an action-focused film, and that is really not the strong, like the most prominent piece of this. This is very much more relationship dynamics and romance stuff, and there is some suspensey bits, but it's not mostly. So anyway, so I'm glad I am done so that I can move on to my two favorite books in the series, which is Twilight and New Moon. And I can't decide if I want to go New Moon and Twilight, because New Moon's my favorite, and it will always be my favorite. And apparently that's a bit of an unpopular opinion. I'm seeming to notice now that people are talking about it. But I think I will continue to read them backwards, so I'll go to New Moon and then go to Twilight last. And I may or may not go with the short second life of Bree Tanner. which is a novella, which is, I feel like it's more of a, makes the movie make sense. Like it shows a bit of a different side of things of what happens in Eclipse, so that things in the movie are fleshed out. So I may or may not read it. It's only like 160 pages, or yeah, and it's like really, it's a smaller book, so I might read it this weekend. If I get through it this weekend, then great. If not, I will just go to New Moon, which I'll read in the month after now, August. When are we? One book that I started this week that I was looking for something completely different, and on Scribd I found The Illustrated Guide to Viking Martial Arts by Antony Cummins. This is so cool. Okay, so what this is a nonfiction book. Someone who went through the sagas, the Icelandic sagas, pulled out the descriptions of the fighting, and then created and organized it by style, like by like I'm right in the first big chapter is all on swords, and then put together like all like different kinds of martial art moves, and then shows them describes them from the descriptions from the sagas, describes them, shows illustrations in this sort of film noir style, like kind of like this on the cover, and then has all of the quotations and notes from the, like, pulls all the quotes from the sagas. I'm like, this is the coolest thing. Like, it is so cool. And I found it on Scribd. I was totally looking for something else, and this came up, and I'm like, what is this? And I'm just like, for me, like, this is the perfect, like, just the attention to detail of, like, combing through something and pulling out the information, and from that extrapolating something and then showing it in a visual style, and the fact that it's martial arts. Oh my gosh, like, it was just, it's the coolest thing. It's the coolest thing. So it's one of I'm just having so much fun reading it. And although it is quite violent, of course, I think there was just the whole section on cleaving people in different ways, and it shows like in 3 points, like it could go over the shield, or you could use the shield and go over this way. I'm just like, I'm just such a happy camper reading this, and that makes it's like it's so violent. I'm like, oh my gosh, but I'm loving it. I'm loving it. So I am reading that. That was not on my TBR, but that is happening. I am also going to try and finish soonish Odd Thomas by Dean Koontz. This I started, I don't remember, last month or the month before. It's a urban fantasy horror novel, thriller. I think Dean Koontz is mostly known for horror thriller, but this one's very urban fantasy. It follows a character named Odd who can see, I'm not sure if it's exclusively ghosts. And I'm actually quite enjoying it, but I have a challenge with horror type novels is that I can't read them at night, and I mostly read at night, so they take me a really long time to read. But I'm going to try and finish this because one of the books that I'm reading for Grinchathon is a darker, murdery kind of book, and I don't want to read two at the same time. So I need to finish this, and I am enjoying it. I'm about, I guess, a third of the way through, maybe 2/5. So really short chapters, and I'm enjoying it. So hopefully I'll finish that soon. I also am continuing to read Macbeth. I'm actually reading the notes of Macbeth. There's different commentaries and stuff. And this week I read, there was one that was sort of like a history source of Macbeth, which I did not know Macbeth was based on a historical figure. So I was all fascinated by that and really curious about that, and like, oh, wow. Like, very specifically about even the, like, some of the, I don't want to spoil Macbeth for people, but very specifically. And then, so I was like, oh, I'm going to put this on my spreadsheet, because one of my tabs on my spreadsheet is a historical timeline, so I don't keep this very much up to date, but if I read a book that's set in a specific historical period, I'll enter it so that I'll know, like, say, if this is, I'm not reading, like, how close in time was this to Her Every Wish? Were they 200 years apart, 500 years apart? I think it was more than that. I think it's more like 800 years apart, just so I have some reference, or even if I read anything around the same time. So anyway, I was super excited about that. I pulled up the spreadsheet, this tab that I like never use, like, or rarely use, and I was like, the information was already there. So I thought I didn't know that Macbeth was based on a historical person or had a historical time period, but I did. I just forgot. So, officially getting old, and I'm pre-filming this, but as this goes up, I will be one day older because Thursday, the 23rd, is my birthday. So, yeah, so I'm pre-filming this, and yeah, so I'm getting older, and I'm losing my memory. Oh my god, it's okay, it's all good, it's all good. But yeah, so that's one more reason to keep spreadsheets is just to keep that information in order so I have it handy reference. And who needs to remember everything if you have a reference, right? Hopefully, that's just me making me feel myself feel better. Anyway, that is what I have been reading this week. And upcoming is Grinchathon. So that starts on Saturday. I will leave a link up below and maybe do the end card for my Grinchathon TBR. I'm very, very excited. It goes from Saturday to Saturday, and I'm looking forward to getting lots of reading done. I really am happy with the things that I picked, and I think it's going to be a great time. It's a readathon created and hosted by Izzy, Punk Rock Girl PA, and I just can't wait to read all of the things. So there you go. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you have a wonderful weekend. Let me know if you're participating in Grinchathon, and yeah, and so a readathon right at the end of the month, so, and a push to the end of the month to all of the unfinished things. It's gonna be lots of reading this week. Lots of reading. Okay, thanks so much for watching.